How many of you are prepared for an incident like this? Get my new book, Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival, and I will teach you to think like an attacker so you can truly defend yourself. Don't just react, act. Available for pre-order now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Sheep No More. Get it.
My name is Jonathan Gillum.
And this is The Experts.
This is Jonathan Gillum, and this is The Experts on Facebook Live, Twitter, and YouTube. You thought I wasn't going to come on, didn't you? Well, I figured I'd surprise you. Well, I think we got some stuff to talk about today. Turn this music down a little bit. It's interesting because we got blasted just within the last couple of hours, at least from what I could see, of sheer leftist stupidity. I'm not even linking to, if you're liberal, don't get mad. I'm not linking you in on this. These are activists, people like Representative Gutierrez out of, where would he be? Illinois. Yeah, he's out of Illinois. ESPN and the Ninth Circuit Court. Might as well go ahead and throw in there Richard Fowler and Jamal Hill, whatever you say your name, from ESPN. Anyway, we'll talk about this. Let's get started. How many of you are prepared for an incident like this? Get my new book, Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival, and I will teach you to think like an attacker so you can truly defend yourself. Don't just react, act. Available for pre-order now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Sheep No More. Get it. All right, in celebration of all the Southern parties that go on while I do this show, I have a red Solo cup. You guys should start some kind of drinking game for something that I do that I repeat over and over again. I don't know what it would be, but so, you know, it never fails. Every once in a while, you get this this spark of leftist, activist, democratic, loyalist, really communist and globalist that comprised of people like the people who run ESPN, of all places, ESPN and Disney as well, which would explain a lot of the and this isn't anything that I'm saying that's made up, but Disney puts, I think, a lot of stuff inside their movies and in their cartoons and stuff that are subliminal for kids. I don't think there's any doubt in that, and for adults as well. But Disney has gone off the deep end. So has ESPN, and then it's not helped by the fact that people that, like Representative Luis Gutierrez, keeps getting reelected somehow. I have my doubts about how these people get reelected, or I have my thoughts about how they get reelected. I doubt that it's Paul Ryan's the same way. It's across the board. I don't care if you're liberal or conservative. I have a feeling that a lot of these people get elected just simply because they are so powerful in their party that there's just nothing that anybody can do about it. Remember, folks, the way that people get to the position that they're in their political parties is not by your the power of the people. It's not. The parties do whatever they can do in order to further their agendas, their narratives, or the things that bring in the money to blanket the power players in those parties' pockets. So it's not. You have to remember this, folks. Yes, this country was built by the Founding Fathers, and it was created so that we, the people, could have the final vote. And reality was it was open to any – the way our political system was created was supposed to be voluntary, but it was made so that we, the people, would step forward and would run things without having to go through some kind of weird synthesis like Marx and the communists had always or believe in. So therein lies the problem, is that we, somewhere along the past 200 years, lost that ability to self-govern, and we gave it over to these two political parties. And I will forever do what I can to battle against these two political parties. As long as I can remember, I've been alive 47 years now. As long as I can remember, there's always been two parties. I mean, we know that there's been two parties for almost 200 years, but I've never in my lifetime seen a politician, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say this, I have never seen a politician that got elected to get reelected. In other words, they ran once so they can get elected the second time. That was related to one of these two parties that was ever a success when they retired. There has never been a successful politician in my lifetime. Even Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan was the great communicator, and by far I think he is the cream of the crop of what we've had in recent history. But politics in Washington, D.C., and the machine that churns those politics is it's not for fixing things with effective solutions. It's not either from both sides. If you're liberal and you're listening to me right now and you've never watched this before and you know that I guest host for Sean Hannity or on the Patriot channel on Sirius XM, channel 125, and you've seen me host for Will Cow and David Webb and stuff, if you think that I am just out to prop up the Republican Party, you are sadly mistaken about who I am. I'm about truth. I'm about effective solutions. I'm about we the people coming together and governing. And if you're some kind of weirdo that can't let go of your political party and look towards effective solutions and I didn't even use the word politicians, leaders, and getting leaders in position that do anything effective at all, you've got a problem. You are literally like a cult member. That's what you are. I remember, I'm not going to say where it was, but I gave a speech that I give to everybody when I go to these political Republican parties, and this was a Republican party, and I gave the speech about the reality of communism, about the reality that the two-party system, that's two private companies that are they have no reins on them. They own every seat of government in the United States, and they have no control. We have no control of them. There's no checks and balances, and I kept pushing that forward about the fact that these two parties are private companies, and I remember the guys going, no. And I said, well, what do you mean? No. And he's like, well, that's not exactly true. Well, it is exactly true. He couldn't explain it to me any other way. They are two private entities. They are not government agencies. And when we look at groups like ESPN, companies like ESPN or Disney or these other like actors and actresses like Jennifer Lawrence, who I got to tell you, I really like Jennifer Lawrence as an actor. And she's going to go down this road that's going to make me not watch or spend any money on her movies again. The same thing. I just got this a second ago. Stevie Wonder. This freaking guy, man. Why would you come out, Stevie Wonder, who just is one of the greatest singers that God ever created. And he comes out and says, I guess this was on Twitter. Stevie Wonder says people who don't accept climate change are blind or unintelligent. Now, I haven't verified that, but it came from Twitter, and we have to take that with a grain of salt. But when will these celebrities ever learn that they are no different? Even Stevie Wonder is an incredible singer, or Jennifer Lawrence, or the Dixie Chicks, or any of these other people. They are no different. They are no different than the people that entertained kings and queens, 500 years ago, and if they got it wrong, they got killed. They're no different than court jesters in a king's court. You are entertainers. Yes, you have a stage, and yes, you have every right to voice your opinion. Not saying that you don't. But you must realize that if you go out and you continuously voice your opinion like this and say things that are so divisive, a couple things are going to happen. One, you are no longer a part of whatever solution you are no part of the solution of fixing this country. You're not. And secondly, you should think about this before you do it, because your career is going to be cut in half for any of the people that listen to you or watch your movies or laugh at your jokes. Jim Carrey's another one. Weird individual, as a lot of comics are, and a lot of musicians for that. Listen, they're eccentric people. The other thing is you're becoming an enemy to a large number of people in this country and globally. It's not, listen, I say this, I beg the people in Hollywood and in the music industry and activists that are out there that don't really know what they're doing, you have to understand that We're on the edge of a civil war. We really are in this country. It has nothing to do with stuff that I say. It's the fact that this country has been spawned into a web of deceit. People have been divided because they are only willing to do this much research, and it's typically what pops up on their phone that somebody else put on Instagram or Twitter or something. They don't really go out and actually research this stuff. And because of that, this country is full of sheep that can be pushed one way or another. Speaking of that, let me put up there you go. And so you all have to realize, I've had to learn this. When you get a stage, all right, it doesn't just mean that, hey, I've got a stage, I can say whatever I want. You can, but you must realize that there are prices to pay for this right here. You see this, or in the case of the Bible, they always talk about the tongue, where the voice comes out and is modulated. There is a price to pay for this. It could be your career. If there's a civil war in this country, it could be your life. If you're not forward thinking these things and then you find yourself in a situation like this, it's exactly what I said. And I know I keep bringing this up and people are saying, let it go. But the girl who marched with Antifa in Charlottesville, it's called personal responsibility. If you don't realize who you're marching with, it's a mistake, I guess. You know, you go out there to support the right thing and other people get milked in there. There were people that were marching with the white supremacists in Charlottesville who said, we weren't with them. Well, why didn't you just leave? You can go march on stuff on another day, but if white supremacists show up, you're going to be judged as a white supremacist. Okay, I don't have time, nor do I have the ability to go out and clear every single person as not being a white supremacist. And if you're too stupid to separate yourself from that, well, then you get what you get, all right, which is you're going to be looked upon as a white supremacist. Well, it's the same thing on the other side. If you march with Antifa and you put Antifa stuff on your Facebook page and you go out and get killed, you know, it's not justified. The killing's not justified by any means, but it's called personal responsibility. You put yourself in that situation, and good things are not going to come out of that. And it's the same thing with actors and actresses and singers and creative people and some of these activists that don't really know what they're getting themselves into. You better stop. You better pause. You better start looking at this. And if you work for a network like ESPN or Disney, or you're a staffer for some of these activist politicians like this weirdo Luis Gutierrez, who is really just another Anthony Weiner. That's all he is. He is as close to Anthony Weiner as you could probably get without changing his name. The guy is a flake. He is a worthless politician. He's not a leader. He doesn't look for any type of effective solutions of what's really going on in this country. Even the way he reacts to DACA, for instance, there's no calm sitting down and saying, listen, we need to discuss this. It's always got to be some kind of big event for this weirdo. I'm telling you, when you take a stage like this, and that's why I always tell everybody that follows me, listen, I know what I've gotten myself into. I know. And that's why I tell everybody, fund the GoFundMe page. Make sure you get this book. Let's get the money built up in this show so we can make it bigger and I can make the stage bigger and bring more people on here. But listen, let me handle that part of it. Let me be the speaker on the mound that takes the shot or that takes the heat. You are the force multiplier for the truth. And before you take a step to this point, you must realize along with this stage comes many potential threats, many potential hazards, many potential judgments. And I know for a fact, every time I come up on here on Facebook Live and Twitter and YouTube, or when I go on television and say the truth, I know that it is no different than the first time I was ever interviewed, that my career could be over in a second. So I'm very careful to never deviate from the truth, because when you If you do not deviate from the truth, people can they can smear you, and like they do in the Huffington Post or Mediaite, where they take little snippets of things that I've said before and try to make a mountain out of a molehill when they're not talking about the truth, like this case with this girl when I said that last week. They didn't take the part where I said personal responsibility. They just took the fact that I had criticized her for marching with Antifa, and they blew that up and tried to make it sound as though I was saying her death was justified. Never said that. But when you stick to the truth, it doesn't matter what the other person shows up with. You will always win the argument because you simply just have to state the truth. That's it. This whole thing about the news, listen, I'm going to be honest with you. Fox News needs to fire Richard Fowler. That guy, and I know the way it is. I'm talking to the wind here because I know how these news networks do it. They want somebody like him on there to say salacious things. But this guy, and the fact that they allow him to go over the top the way he does, and the fact that he's only, 20-something years old, the guy knows nothing, it just makes the whole network look bad. And he says stuff like when he was going after General Kelly just a little while ago, that is just, it's sick. The guy is just, it's like listening to an 18-year-old trying to reason with you about, how a nuclear bomb works. He knows, they know nothing about it. And Richard Fowler knows the majority of stuff that he talks about, he knows nothing about. So I'm trying to help, not the enemy. I'm trying to help other Americans that may be leftists, that have a stage. If you have not thought this thing through, you need to pause for a second, and you need to realize that you're putting yourself and your life in a very precarious place. And you better think it through. You better think it through because this country is on the edge. And the same thing goes with all these Twitter big mouths. These, on both sides, conservative and liberal. They come out there and like I said something the other day about Jennifer Lawrence. I guess I tweeted, because she doesn't have her own Twitter, so I tweeted her fan club, which is like 400,000 strong, that she doesn't know jack squat about national security. She couldn't even secure her own phone. Her nude photos got out. So she needs to shut the blank up and be an actress. Choose your battle. Now, if she says, I want to choose my battle, and that is I want to speak out and say stupid, idiotic stuff like the hurricane that came through in Houston and the one in Florida are a result of God punishing us because of Donald Trump being our president. If she wants to say stupid stuff like that, that's fine. She's going to cut her movie sales in half, and I won't go see another movie of hers. I hope these people get it straight. I hope they figure it out. I don't think they will. And it's not a threat. I'm not threatening anybody. I'm just saying the climate that this country is in, I'm saying this almost from a security standpoint to try to help these people out. From the point that this country is in, you've seen what's happened with leftists, with the guy that tried to kill and assassinate a congressman at the softball or baseball game, whatever that was. You've seen it where there's been judges shot. Cops have been shot by Black Lives Matter activists. People have been brutally beaten up with bats and sticks, chains, bottles, improvised explosive devices by Antifa. It's only a matter of time until they go full bore. It's only a matter of time. Those people have got bloodlust. They're going to get spun up. But I'm trying to tell everybody that once a stage like this, you better prepare yourself, and you better take a step back and realize that you may be asking for something that you're not ready for. And I would highly, highly recommend that you take a look, take a pause, and take a look at the fact. First off, why did her name just drop right? Alyssa Milano, who responded to my tweet a while back, about a month ago. She was trying to throw all support behind Antifa, or not directly Antifa, but with the Charlottesville thing against the opposite side and criticizing the president because he didn't, because he wanted to show that there were bad people on both sides. She said something stupid. I came back at her about Antifa and that I might as well consider her a member of Antifa. She says that she didn't know who Antifa was. Well, listen, if you're going to support a group of people that are marching in what you think is the freedom fighters of some kind, which they're not, they're communist, you are going to be judged with them. You better take a pause and reevaluate what you are standing for. And that did not happen, and has not happened with a lot of these people. Definitely not ESPN. If you work for ESPN and you're not in on all this stuff, you better realize, folks. Let's take Timothy McVeigh, for instance, the whack job that blew up the Murrah Federal Building in Oklahoma. Do you think that all the people that were killed and the young children that were killed in the Murrah Federal Building were responsible for his not being picked to go into special forces? No, that's because he couldn't cut the mustard. Do you think that those people that work in the federal building and some buildings across the street, or may have just been walking by, were they responsible for whatever type of weird concept he had of the government? No, they're just workers like everybody else. But yet this weirdo, this terrorist, drove up to the Murrah Federal Building and with a 5,000-pound bomb, because at that point in time, and I still don't know if they really have the ability to track all this stuff, it wasn't being tracked, ammonium nitrate, and he blew the building 3/4 of the way up. And a lot of those innocent people that had nothing to do with anything he was upset about were killed, including children. So my warning to all these people, left and right, that want to get caught up in this nonsense of an activist mindset. I got a good buddy who's on Newsmax all the time. I'm not going to say his name, but he's a military veteran, and he terms himself as a conservative activist. You should be very careful getting in on this stuff, because the Timothy McVeigh types exist on both sides. There's crazies everywhere. And the real fear that I have for this country right now is that it won't be crazies that show up. It'll be people that finally say we've had enough, and they start to organize, and they have the will. And I'm telling you, they don't even have to have the desire or motivation. That's being provided because of this separation. It's not like good people wake up and say, I want to hate and I want to kill. But the motivation is being placed in people on a daily basis through the news and through these idiot people who have stages. And they don't try to talk people down from this. They add fuel to the fire. Luis Gutierrez is like jet fuel to this divisiveness. That guy and the Ninth Circuit Court, they have no idea about national security. Jennifer Lawrence knows nothing about national security. These people know Paul Ryan. I can never say his name because I'd like to forget him. Paul Ryan knows nothing about national security. Yeah, I know. He's up there in Washington, D.C. He knows nothing about national security. He is one of the biggest national security threats that we have in this country. My fear is that the people in this country that are not crazy will finally say enough is enough. And there's going to be a lot of innocent people dead. There's going to be a lot of good cops that are put in the middle of this that are going to have to do things that they did not wake up to do, to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. The problem is, if good people act and they are not properly organized, they will become the enemy of the state. That is the problem. So I'm saying several things at the same time. I'm trying to warn people that deem themselves activists, that may not be the power hitters like this Jamal Hill. I think I'm saying her name right. Jamel Hill. Who calls Donald Trump, the same old, I'm so sick of this, tired of this line that Donald Trump's a white supremacist and he's surrounded himself with white supremacists, and anybody that backs him is a white supremacist. And that people have dark skin can't be racist. Maybe you're not one of those people. Maybe you're just an actress or an actor who lives in Hollywood and has been inundated since you were a child with liberal ideologies because of these controlled networks. And maybe you grew up in San Francisco where the communist Ninth Circuit Court is that keeps putting things down for that good presidents or good people try to do, and it doesn't fit their communist agenda, so they overturn it. Yeah, and you grow up, and so, like Shia LaBeouf, who can't that guy can't seem to get it right. Not only is he on drugs like an idiot, but another great actor, Shia LaBeouf. Listen, he might be an idiot in real life, but that guy's a great actor. I'll give him that. I've never seen a movie that Shia LaBeouf did that wasn't good as far as his acting goes. And the problem is that Shia LaBeouf had to hit Rico with a what? Shia LaBeouf has bought into this whole Antifa thing. And it's probably part of it is drug-induced. But these people need to realize that they're getting themselves into a position where if and when this whole thing blows up, they are not prepared for this. They're not prepared for the crazies that are going to latch onto them. They're not prepared for the non-crazies who are going to potentially rise up. This stage can be utilized for immense good and unification of the people. That's why I learned a lesson a couple months ago from a friend of mine that said their aunt watched the show and their aunt was put off by it because I kept talking about liberals this and liberals that. This is not a show where I condemn liberals. In fact, if you're a person that wakes up every day and goes to work and pays your taxes and you have you just want the right things to be done in this country, effective things, you want people to be taken. Maybe you have, ideas about immigration. You could have ideas about the budget. That doesn't mean that you're a liberal. It doesn't mean you're conservative. What it means is you have different ideas about what's effective. And the problem is we are constantly told you are liberal or you are conservative. And liberals will hang out and believe this, and conservatives will hang out and believe that. But, look, I remember when I was in the SEAL teams, we didn't show up when we were planning a mission and say, well, I don't believe, I believe this way. So obviously we have to do it this way. No, we showed up and we said, what is the mission? Okay. This is what we need to achieve. Let's come up with 3 concepts of operation based on the training and experience, the skill set that we've been trained with, and the tools that we have at our disposal. Let's come up with 3 concepts of operation so that we can attack this problem, and then we will run those up the chain. They'll approve 1 or 2 of them, bring it back down, and then we will further plan those missions to the point where the finite details are done so that we will have mission success. There's no concept of, well, this is best for this individual because they have dark skin, or, we're worried about people that don't belong in this country that are illegals having, the right to be. We don't worry about that stuff. We look at, here's the problem. How do we solve it? This is a mission. How do we effectively succeed in that mission? What do we have at our disposal? That is not what you're hearing the majority of the time from politicians and actors and people that have stages like this. No, no, no. It'd be no different than if the SEAL teams and a platoon and officer in charge walked out there and said, okay, here's the mission. Where were you born? Here's the mission. How do you feel about women's rights? It has nothing to do with this mission. This is a problem. How do we fix it? Now, I give criticism on both sides. I personally believe this whole illegal alien thing is so out of control. And it's like the war on drugs. It's like the war on terror. This has been a problem that it's not even recently. This has been a problem that for probably 50 years has consistently been ignored. Same thing with North Korea. Same thing with Iran. Same thing with Islam, fundamental Islam in general. Nobody, people are always surprised, like Canada, when they finally had a terrorist attack up there, they're like, well, we didn't see that coming. How could you not see that coming? 16 years ago, 2 planes flew into the towers here. One flew in the Pentagon, and one crashed in a field out in Pennsylvania, changed the entire world, forced us to go to war, including Canada, to go to war all over this globe. Not fought effectively, but still putting people all over the place with people getting killed and going to war. And you were surprised that there was a terrorist attack? I'm trying to tell people, before you go out and you become an activist, you have to realize that there are ramifications for it. And the way that you can secure yourself and your mind and prepare yourself for whatever you're going to stand for is to educate yourself properly on it. Stop looking at these politicians who don't have effective decisions. Stop looking at the people who are telling you, you must be liberal or you must be conservative. That's not true. It's not true. It's like people saying that if you have dark skin, you can't be racist, and if you have white skin, then you must be racist or a white supremacist, or that if you have dark skin, you must act this way. There's people in cultures within different cultures that really look down upon people. They don't act a certain way in their culture. There's nothing in this that has brain cells. That comes from here, and the reality is racism doesn't even come from here. Racism comes from your soul, not even your heart. I don't know how we got in that. It's not your heart. It's your soul. It's you, the thing inside of you that gives this energy to you, that it decides whether or not I want to be good or bad. That's where racism comes from. That's where prejudice comes from. That's where laziness comes from. I know it seems like I'm all over the place on this, but this is the truth. If you want to step out, this weirdo from ESPN or all the weirdos that work at ESPN, and you want to put yourself out there, there's going to be ramifications. ESPN is slowly crashing. Their viewership is down tremendously. They've lost a lot of money. I'm not really sure if they're concerned about that. They're just trying to turn people. I think perhaps this is just a little bit of a theory here, but perhaps a lot of these leftists, not the liberals, remember, I'm not trying to put people down based on, I don't believe in liberal and conservative, but the leftists, they do want themselves defined as leftists. These leftist communists, I think potentially they are moving towards another evolution in the cycle of their subversion. And that is that as long as they own the airwaves, a certain amount of people will turn to their airwaves. And as long as they have, as we saw in this last election, at least half of the country agreeing with them in some way, shape, or form, then it's not about making money. It's about pushing their narrative forward and fully indoctrinating their combatants, because that's what these people are. I'm looking at what people are writing here. Now, real quick, let me, I'm just going to go to the A block just to break things up, so stand by 1 second here. How many of you are prepared for an incident like this? Get my new book, Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival, and I will teach you to think like an attacker so you can truly defend yourself. Don't just react, act. Available for pre-order now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Sheep No More. Get it. I guess you're wondering where I went. Had to check on old Rico over there. Make sure he's alive. And he is. So, the Ninth Circuit Court, let me just focus on them for a second. We listen, it's California is not a bad place. California is kind of a symbol for what is going to happen to the rest of this country. You have a lot of conservatives that live in California. They're either too busy working. Nobody's too busy working to vote, but over the years, they've gotten lazy with voting. California is a very cold place. It's very cliquish, and if you're not in with those people, your chances are your communication to other people is going to be very low. Completely opposite New York. New York is like it's like, I don't know, 15 different small towns all milked into one another. So it's very easy to meet people here and communicate with people. If you're on the subway and you're like, dang it, my watch is broke, people will just turn around and say, oh, it's whatever time. In LA, people won't even acknowledge you. They'll just keep walking. But the Ninth Circuit Court is a perfect example of where this country is going. There's certain pockets in this country that are very, very liberal. And listen, very smartly, these activists and these leftists have been able to co-op places like the Ninth Circuit Court in Berkeley, Chicago, Hawaii, even Texas. You have judges spread around. The legal system has always been something that leftists were really good at utilizing. And in Hawaii, you had a federal judge that went against or blocked the president's immigration plan to stop or halt immigration from some of these Muslim countries because of the amount of movement through those of bad people, not just to this country, but also to other countries as well. And a judge that was a college mate of Barack Obama put the kibosh on that. This is after meeting with Barack Obama after he was out of the presidency. The Ninth Circuit Court upheld it, and now the Supreme Court has actually overturned that and is going to allow the president to do what he needs to do with this ban. And it's typical for the Ninth Circuit Court to be overturned. I have said this before. I don't believe that federal judges or judges, period, I don't think anything in government should be an appointment for life. We have just set ourselves up for, I don't know who came up with that I don't know where it started. I don't know if it started where. I don't know who came up with that idea. But for anybody that's political to be to have a position that's a life term, you're just asking for a criminal, nefarious behavior. And remember, it doesn't have to be that they're getting paid off. They get paid off through power, which is you can't put a monetary value to that, and you can't really track it that well either. So the Ninth Circuit Court is a disgusting example of, you could put somebody like Luis Gutierrez over there, Hillary Clinton, Paul Ryan, other activists like this. I guess Mitch McConnell, the DOJ, by and large the DOJ, many people in the FBI, upper echelons of all political appointees you can throw over there. Don't have to be conservative or liberal. What you see there is people who have an agenda that has nothing to do with what I was talking about a little while ago about mission success. Has nothing to do with the Constitution. It only has to do with what is best for their cause or their pocket. That's it. So John Heiser says this, and John, I like this. I'm going to read this. He says, nothing in the Constitution says they have the bench for life. What it does say is during good behavior. What that means, I have no idea, because it's been taken as if they are good behaving for life. I doubt it. Well, I doubt that too, John. Listen, the sheer fact, Gorsuch, I mean, if we're judging it based on that, Gorsuch should never have gotten the bench. I'm glad a conservative got the bench, but he basically lied when he said that none of his decisions are based on his political beliefs, that he tries to stay neutral and judge the law. And if that's the case, first of all, he wouldn't have been chosen. And secondly, he wouldn't have immediately come on and sided all with conservative values. You would have a judge and all judges that sit down and look at the problem, like I said, and try to figure out where things broke down and does this fit the Constitution? But they don't. Anytime somebody puts a political agenda or is known for their political agenda, they're not going to be unbiased. They're going to be biased in some way, shape, or form. And so, therefore, when it comes to good behavior, any judge that makes a decision based on a political stance and not what is effective and not what follows the law, then they are not behaving well and they should be put out to pasture. And in the case of the Ninth Circuit Court, that court should just be shut down. It is, I can't remember the percentage, but it's like a vast majority of the decisions that they make end up getting overturned. That's because they are pure activists. That's it. All right, so somebody asked me on Twitter about checking something here. Somebody mad about something. Oh. Yeah, obviously. I also love the way leftists love to use the slang that they actually criticize other people for using, so I don't really answer to that stuff. I will block people on Twitter and Facebook if they come on here and do stuff, but it's almost not even worth it. All these weirdos go away if you just don't pay any attention to them, typically. Let's see here. I'm just looking at what you guys are saying over here on Twitter. I've been looking at my Facebook stuff. Obviously, let's see, who's this? Georgia soccer player. Why are you even tuned into this show, troll? Idiots. I love calling people like this idiots because they are. I think you guys get where I'm going at with this tonight. Whether it be the Ninth Circuit Court, ESPN, and the weirdness that's going on there, it's actually not as weird as it is just communist. Or this weirdo Gutierrez. Man, I would call him weird to his. If I ever get in front of him, I'm just going to go, you're weird, you're weird, you're weird, you're weird. That guy is such a flamboyant little girl. It is unbelievable. He is not fit for service in this country. He lied when he took his oath because he certainly does not stand for. He is a domestic enemy, so he certainly doesn't stand for defending the Constitution against foreign enemies or domestic enemies. Or supporting or defending the Constitution. He doesn't care about the Constitution. Not only is he a flamboyant and effeminate little girl, he is also a bully, a loudmouth, and completely incompetent liar. That's what that guy is. And when I call him a little girl, I'm not equating to his sexuality. I mean literally. He is about as much of a man as a little bitty 5-year-old girl playing in a sandbox. And I think anybody that has elected that weirdo should be ashamed of yourself. Even if you're a leftist, that's all you got? Anthony Weiner and Luis Gutierrez? And this weirdo, Hillary Clinton, who cannot accept the fact that she's a narcissist and a psychopath. Those people, I keep getting texts and emails from people saying, I can't believe that Hillary Clinton debuted her book on the 9/11/9/12. Well, listen, she's a psychopath. She has no soul. These people, folks, they're not like you and I, right? They don't have caring in their body. Ask yourself this. I'm going to throw a couple names out here. If you think I'm wrong, let me know, okay? Even you weirdo over here on the Georgia soccer weirdo over here on Twitter. Let me just throw some names out here. Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, Chelsea Clinton, Paul Ryan, Mitch McConnell. I'm just wanting to point out people that you see on a regular basis that you can identify with. Luis Gutierrez, Anthony Weiner, Bill de Blasio, the mayor here, the communist mayor here in New York. Would you ever, hang out with these people? If they weren't who they are, right? And somebody said, hey, I want to set you up with this guy. His name's Anthony. What's his last name? Don't laugh. His name's Weiner, but I want to set you up with him. He's a great guy. Would you ever associate yourself with somebody as weird as Anthony Weiner? Hey, I want you to go hang out with a buddy of mine. We're going to go play some, I don't know, what would Luis Gutierrez play? Marbles, because that's about all he's capable of doing athletically. Hey, we're going to go play marbles with a guy. His name's Luis Gutierrez. You're going to love him. And you show up, you're going to be like, I don't want anything to do with this person. Hey, we're going to go and have an intellectual conversation with a couple friends of mine. One's name's Mitch McConnell. The other guy's name's Paul Ryan. We're thinking about bringing along with us another interesting person named Hillary Clinton. Now, if they were not in the position that they're in, right, and then you show up with them, and all they talk about is themselves, about how they've been wronged, and how they're going to screw over the American people, would you hang out with these people? I mean, just look at them. Just based on their looks alone, they're odd. And then when you get the reactions from them, when you see their behaviors, it just validates everything. That's why when you, listen, I remember when I was in the FBI Academy, and we had a brief from the Behavioral Science Unit, and the lady that briefed us, she's been on TV quite a bit. That's the Silence of the Lambs unit. She said that when a lot of these different serial killers that she interviewed all had the same psychopathic attitude, they would just creep you out, and these almond-shaped eyes. They all had these eyes that were like, it felt like if you put your hand in there, you're like be penetrating some kind of dark water that you may or may not get your hand back. Those are not her words, those are mine, but based on what she said. Well, people who have psychological problems will often have physical characteristics that go right along with it. Everybody I just named to you, would you, if you just saw them, if you saw Anthony Weiner, would you just be like, I'm going to the other side of the sidewalk? Probably, because he's a weirdo, because he's a narcissistic psychopath. And along with that comes a whole aura of, as I talk about in my book, Sheep No More, one of the examples I give in that book is a Gary Larson from The Far Side. Gary Larson wrote The Far Side. It was a comic, and it was a comic strip that said ways that nature tell you to stay away. One was a picture of a rattlesnake. One was a puffer fish. One was, I don't remember what the other one was. And then a picture of a guy with a tutu on, no, a floaty on, and a shoe on his head and a bazooka. Nature tells you this is not something that you want to hang out with. And so the whole point of me ranting on this is that it's as if God, with all of his power, without sticking his hand through the clouds and saying, listen to me, he is trying to tell you to stay away from these people. Vote them out of office. Get away from them. Start understanding it doesn't matter if you think this way and I think this way and you have this color skin and that person has that color skin, or you feel like you want to dress as a whatever, or you better start realizing there is reality, and then there is a fake reality that is constantly being pumped into you by these psychopathic narcissists who not only run politics but also the media. They have tons of money because they're, listen, for whatever reason, these weirdos seem to get mega wealthy. I'm sure there's mega wealthy individuals that aren't this way, but a lot of them that get into this power circle are. And with every bit of his being, without sticking his hand through the cloud, God is trying to show you that is strange. Stay away from it. And we just refuse to listen to this. Am I making myself clear today, or am I just all over the place? These things that I saw right before I came on, I was going to talk a little bit more about Steve Bannon and his 60 Minutes interview, which I'll try to get to tomorrow, but I agree and disagree with him in some places. But I just felt after seeing this stuff, the Stevie Wonder thing just kind of set me over. The American people need to be much more, you need to put the effort out there to realize what you're talking about. And especially before you place the hate on another group of people, you better start looking at the reality of, is there more than one way to effectively do this? If so, maybe their way is good too, right? And also, for the leftists in this country, you can't validate killing this. One second. You can't validate killing this and then saying you can kill this, but you can't kill that. All right? You either need to understand the reality of killing, which I don't think most people in this country do, or you need to take a step back and learn it. That's a whole nother discussion. We'll talk about that sometime. But oh, Lisa wants to know what Stevie Wonder did. Let me read it again. Stevie Wonder said, people who don't accept climate change are blind or unintelligent. Stevie Wonder's also the one that when he was singing a song on stage for one of those award shows, yells out during the song, "I love you, Barack Obama." Which is very interesting. And I'm just saying this observation. I'm not putting anything out here, but if you're blind, how in the world would you know color or the separation of color? I mean, he may know the separation of culture. He may know prejudice because he may have felt it because he does have dark skin. And even though he's black, he may have been treated a certain way. And so the concept was explained to him. But what's fascinating is that he's not just somebody who stands against racism. He is bought into every bit of the the leftist ideology. Now he's talking about climate change and using the term blind and unintelligent to try to make us feel uneasy. It's just strange to me. Now, I'm going to research that and make sure that's correct, but that's what somebody sent to me a little while ago and said that Stevie Wonder said that. It doesn't surprise me if he did say that because, again, he did yell out that he loves Barack Obama in a concert one night. All right, let's go to the Truth Zone. I know it's time for me to get out of when I start sweating. Let me use a little of this. Let's see, where is it? Yeah. A friend of mine gave that to me. Well, they used to be my friend anyway. All right, let's go to the Truth Zone. How many of you are prepared for an incident like this? Get my new book, Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival, and I will teach you to think like an attacker so you can truly defend yourself. Don't just react, act. Available for pre-order now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Sheep No More. Get it. All right. I don't know if I'm reading some of your comments there. If my whole show was kind of like a Truth Zone tonight. So let me just say, I was talking about all these other people tonight, you know, these celebrities or people that run ESPN or these criminal judges, weirdo representatives and senators. Now let me just speak to you all for a second. Those people that watch this show, those people that support what I'm talking about and are focused on truth in this world and being a part of the truth. The truth is not something that is elusive. It's there. You may have to find it because you don't understand the reality of this particular thing. And so you got to educate yourself in order to get to the truth. But once you find the truth, there's nothing that can stand against it. There's nothing that, once you have it, that can hide it from you. It can be hidden from you before you find out what it is. And that is an important thing to remember, folks, is that the truth is something that often you must seek. And if you fail to seek the truth, there are wolves, as the Bible talks about, crouching at your doorstep, waiting to mislead you away from the truth. And you must focus on getting around those wolves. You must focus on preparing yourself with the armor of God before you step out of your door. Again, I don't care what you decide and what you think is the best way to do a certain thing. There may be more than one way to put a light bulb in. You should be willing to look at all the different ways to do something or the solutions to something so that you can find true mission success. If you do not do this, you will not have unity. You will never have dialogue, which leads to unity. And you will forever be misled by those nefarious people that are crouching at your doorstep or on the TV or on the Twitter or the Facebook, waiting to lie to you. Remember that before there can be the we the people, before you can get to we the people, you must get to a point where you, the person, is whole. Because let's say you have 100 whole people that get together and they want to unify 200. If you have one person who is not whole, who has not done their research, who is not a full understanding person, somebody who does not seek the truth, they are like a cancer, and they will grow, and they will make that gap bigger and bigger, and eventually they will affect people, and they will mislead people, and they will lead them away from the unity and the dialogue that it's going to take to bring this country together. That is the truth. I'm Jonathan Gillum. Rico just woke up. He's walking around. Time for a walk again. I will see you tomorrow, 8 p.m. I know I was a little late today. I'll be here tomorrow. Join me. Tell everybody about it. Go get the book, Sheep No More, and donate to the GoFundMe page. The truth has arrived.